Here.
Commissioner Stanley.
Here.
Commissioner White.
Here.
Commissioner Orthline. Here. Mayor Morgan.
Here.
Let the record show that also present are Attorney Randolph and our town manager, Mr. Dunham, Chief Allen, and our staff attorney, Trey Mazzaro.
Thank you very much. We've been presented with the minutes from the last regular meeting, April 17th, as well as our special meetings, 2 of them on that same day. Are there any additions, corrections, comments?
Nope.
If
In
not,
the,
yes.
the attorney-client section, they said Joanne O'Connor was she there?
She was not. I think she was identified as possibly going to be
Right,
there.
but she's listed as present.
So, good catch. Joanne O'Connor was not present at the special meetings. Any other corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve?
Second. Go ahead. Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons,
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley,
Yes.
Mr. White,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthline,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. There is on the amended agenda a reference for consideration of settlement in relation to O'Hare Public Records cases. That item is withdrawn. Any other additions to the agenda, Ms. Taylor?
No, there are not.
Our next meeting will be June 9th at 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Public comment. Anyone wish to speak? Graziano.
Good morning. First, I'd like to speak on behalf of the Civic Association to thank Chet Snavely of the Homeowners Association of Plaza Soleil and you, Mayor Morgan, for the fabulous work you did on the Gunther Volvo project. You achieved much more than I and a number of other residents thought you could, so again, thank you. Then on a personal note, those of us on the north end of town have been living with the undergrounding now for maybe almost 2 months. It's disconcerting sometimes to wake up in the morning and find your driveway blocked. But I have to give a special thanks to our new town manager and our chief for the work they've done to try to keep Wilco under control. I know it's a terrible job. You get surprised by them as much as we do, but thank you for your efforts.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Geiger.
Bob Ganger. I hadn't planned on speaking, but I couldn't resist. I know that the town is going through a lot of tumult with the undergrounding, but it's getting close to the end. And for those of us who started this project after a hurricane in 2005, the end can't come too soon. I realize that it is inconvenient, but I'll tell you that when I first started working on undergrounding, which was a long time ago, the technology and the attitude of the servants, the people that do it, was pretty different from what we're doing today. And although we're just such a small town that it's awful hard to get trucks and pull these wires and all this stuff done, it's almost over. And I really think that when it's done, we'll all be extremely happy that we did it in the first place. So it's I realize there's no one here to make this message to, but I know that you all take a lot of grief from a lot of people. But I promise you, several years from now, it'll be more than worth it, particularly if we get a hurricane and we're back up before anyone else. I had one other thing I wanted to talk about very briefly, which is congratulations to the town for the Gulfstream Winds public records suit story in the newspaper. I know, again, this is something that you all have worked on for a long period of time. I'm sorry I couldn't have joined you towards the end here, but I think the end is getting near. And I think you all should feel very proud of what you've accomplished in this respect. I'm here for another reason. I'm here to support Christine, who's coming up next. But if you have any questions in terms of the material that she's going to be presenting, I'd be happy to work with you on it. Thanks.
I would just say, Bob, mentioned the public records win an article, it was Bob Ganger who led the legislative effort to change that law. So kudos to you.
Only 3 years though.
Well,
Well done.
yeah, well done. All right, we now move on to Mr. Hassett, and that is the update on the Boynton Beach Development Impact on Island and Florida Coalition.
That's a mouthful. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Christine DeHassett, Executive Director of the Florida Coalition for Preservation. I feel like I'm amongst friends because I am, and there's nobody else. And Mark gets to hear this twice because I just gave a similar presentation at the Ocean Ridge Commission, so I'm sure he's just jumping with joy inside. Just to start off real quickly, a quick reminder. The coalition got started actually with funds from the Gulfstream Civic Association, a $2,500 check, when Mayor Cook and Mayor Khalil sat in these very chambers and said, what in the world is happening in Briny Breezes, and what can we do to have an impact, to bring some responsibility to what may happen. That was 11 years ago, which is crazy. I mean, I look back and I see some of the original things that I used to drag my son to when he was still in Gulfstream School, and he was about this high. Now he's 6'2", so I mean, that gives me the perspective of really what's going on. Over the years, not only have we worked on the Briny project, we've worked on many other growth management things, also a lot of things that affect our quality of life. And so that is our mission statement, is to promote responsible growth and to look at issues that affect and somehow disturb or enhance the quality of life that we have on the Barrier Island, because it is a very unique one, and it's one that we want to preserve. So, on to Boynton, but before I get to Boynton, I want to give you some good news on Atlantic Crossing. You know that that's a project that we've worked over 7 years on, probably closer to 8. Yes, Bob, he'd say it's been 22 because it almost feels like that. But they have finally reached, after 2.5 years of very heavy litigation, they have finally reached a settlement agreement between the developer and the city. And the developer agreed to put back in the 2-way feeder road, which will reinstate the grid system within this 2-block project right at the base of Atlantic Avenue Bridge. So very victorious, we feel, for citizens. We were the ones that sponsored the traffic study that actually finally convinced them to do this. Unfortunately, it took 2.5 years of really nasty litigation after that to do it, but I presume that that project is going to be breaking ground pretty soon, and finally we'll be able to move forward. So that's the good news. The interesting news is obviously getting off bridges and getting on bridges is the lifeblood to us living here on the Barrier Island. So while growth management on the Barrier Island doesn't seem to be, because we've built as much as we can pretty much, and we all as small towns have put in very, very good restrictions and building codes as to height limit, density limit, intensity limit. Not so much on the other side of the bridge where you've got municipalities that you don't control. So I'd like to talk a little bit about Boynton. 18.5 months ago, we formed a group called the Boynton Coalition for Responsible Development. And it was mainly created with citizens and residents on the intercoastal, the west side of intercoastal in Boynton. So they were Boynton residents, and this came about when we got, when it went from rumor to fact that the old Riverwalk Plaza area was going to be redeveloped, and Winn-Dixie was going to be taken down. And at that time, the developer proposed a 100-foot building, apartment building with 326 units. And people said, oh, that's just never going to happen. And if you kind of wind back the clock, there was 3 new positions on the Boynton Commission. This group helped elect the new mayor because the old mayor was very much in favor of this project and had already told everybody it was a done deal. So they bet on the new person, they bet on another new person, and then a 3rd person. So on the dais sat 3 people under the age of 35, and we thought, oh, this is, finally, you know, some sense. They're breaking the old block. And we talked about green space with them. We talked about LED certification. We talked about all kinds of sustainable type building things they could do. I mean, everybody was on board. Here's the interesting thing, though. Once we got ahead of steam, and it looked like that we were going to have a 3-2 vote to disapprove this site plan and or bring some responsibility back into it, saying we don't really need a 100-foot tower there, The CRA got together with the staff and they changed all the rules. And what do I mean by that? They have 5 districts within the CRA, and the CRA runs, it's 1,650 acres, and it runs from Gateway all the way basically down to Gulfstream, along the intercoastal to the east side of 95. So you'd say, CRA districts are usually set up for blighted areas. Well, there are a few in there, but there's as many non-blighted areas as there are. But regardless, the CRA has control of those areas, and the CRA had worked very hard to woo the developer for this Riverwalk project, had promised them the height, had promised them the density, although the height limit at that time was 45 feet. They just carte blanche said, it's in our district, we'll make it happen. Old Mayor says we'll make it happen. So when it looked like they didn't have that head of steam, it looked like we had new faces on the dais that were gonna vote in our favor. CRA went and consolidated all their plans. They changed the zoning. They brought it through the CRA board, which is the sitting commission board, in such a convoluted way, I don't think anybody understood what honestly they were voting on. And they changed their comprehensive plan, they changed their future land use map, they changed their zoning, and they changed all their LDRs. And so that is what you see up there on the screen today is where you see the I know it's kind of hard to read, but where you see the NUH, that means multi-use high. And what is dividing those 4 triangles is Woolbright Bridge. And multi-use high basically means you can develop up to a 150-foot building with 80 units per acre. To give you an idea of what that means, and it's not apples to apples when you look at single family versus multifamily. But single family here, we have about 1.5 units per acre. So 80 units per acre is quite a difference. So as you kind of go down, you see that there's multi-use low. That is up to 20 to 40 units per acre. Again, moving down, and then that's high density residential. And high density residential, all bets are off. There is really no limit on density. But the reason that I pointed out is at the foot of our bridge is that is what can happen. That doesn't mean it's what will happen, but that is what Boynton has said their 20-year planning operation is moving towards, and that's what they would like to see there. You have pretty much a functionally obsolescent Bermuda Cay, and right next to it you have Snug Harbor, which is 60 years old too. So those 2 projects are probably the next ones that would be apropos to be being redeveloped. A new developer just bought Las Ventanas for $120 million. Good news is he's repainting it right now, so if you haven't seen it, it really looks lovely. But he could add an additional 5 stories to the 5-story buildings that he has, and he could also increase his density, which is now 33 up to 80. So that's a huge difference, and you can say, well, where would he put it? Well, Goodbye Clubhouse. There's a lot of things that where there's a will, there's a way, and where there's a sitting commission that would approve it.
Sorry.
Absolutely, no problem. So not to be chicken little that the sky's falling, but these are planning assumptions, and these are development rights that have now been granted in perpetuity to not only the existing property owners, but the future property owners. That it's going to be very hard to change. It's kind of like you can't be a little bit pregnant. Once these rights have been given away, if you take them back from a developer, you try to say, I didn't mean 150 feet, I meant 15. All bets are off, and you're opening yourself up, obviously, for some type of litigation. So, the next little area that I want to talk about, let's see if I can do this. There we go. Where you see the wording that I can't even read from here, that is the Ocean Avenue Bridge. So you'd say, okay, well, we're not going to go to Woolbright. We're going to tell the kids from Gulfstream School, go up to the next bridge. It's going to be easier to get over, less density. They have done the exact same thing, except they expanded it. And I think what really shocks people about this map is they say, well, no, St. Mark's is right there, right? And I say, well, St. Mark's School closed about 6 years ago. It's under negotiation for development, as is the Dias right now negotiating with a developer to sell the church. So that whole quadrant, once again, could change to 150-foot buildings. The only difference at this juncture is that it's in something called a transportation overlay district, which gives them a 25% bonus in density. So rather than having 80 units per acre, they could have 100 units per acre. So now we're talking real urbanization. We're talking, those are the type of numbers that you see in Fort Lauderdale and Miami. It's not, we're not just increasing in a small way, we're taking quantum leaps. So what does this increased density and intensity mean to us? Well, what I didn't point out in the last slide, but what I will point out on this slide is Station 1 is the fire EMT station that responds to the north end of Ocean Ridge, is off of this bridge. Off of the Woolbright Bridge is Station 4, which responds to Briny Breezes and the south end of Ocean Ridge. So it's one thing to have increased traffic, it's one thing to have increased foot traffic over your bridge and maybe not being respectful to your dunes or your beaches. It's one thing to have petty crime that increases because of increased density and pressures from the west to the east. It's another thing if you have a heart attack, God forbid, and the fire EMT station can't get to you, and then furthermore, it can't get back to the other side. So that, I think as responsible municipalities on the eastern side of the bridge on the Barrier Island, we just have to be very conscientious about what is the planning assumption of west side municipalities. It may not happen tomorrow, but it is going to happen, and it is planned to happen. So usually when you have a plan for something, it sometimes comes through. And what can we do on this side of the bridge to A, create awareness that this is going to happen, and B, mitigate to the extent that we can the impacts of what it's going to have on the Barrier Island. So the coalition has kind of shifted our focus from looking outside the Barrier Island and the growth pressures there to saying, what can we do here on the Barrier Island? And I think that there's 3 initiatives that we are going to continue, that we work behind the scenes, but we're going to bring it a little bit further in front of the scenes to try to unite the municipalities. And I'm talking about from Manalapan down to Delray. I'm not talking about the entire Barrier Island for the state of Florida. But I think one of the things that we really need to seriously consider and maybe do phase 2 of the study is for the fire EMT. I think that is the biggest impact of any of what I'm talking about is the traffic and the gridlock and being able to get back and forth over the Barrier Island. There's been ideas of putting a heliport on top of St. Andrews. There's been a bunch of different really interesting ideas that are out of the box, but it's something that's going to be a multi-municipality effort, and I don't think we're going to get any traction until we do that second phase of the report, which actually tells us what is it going to cost, because everybody buys into it philosophically and they understand that there's probably a future need for it, if not a current need for it, but I don't think you're ever going to get any traction until we can really say what does that mean to my pocketbook today and tomorrow. So that's one thing. The second piece is the automated license plate recognition program. It had a great head of steam when Ocean Ridge was led by Chief Unuzi and brought together a lot of the municipalities and did a lot of research on it. Delray has now instituted on the Barrier Island. As you know, Manalapan has had it for many, many years. Ocean Ridge is getting ready to put it into their budget. And one of the things that I want to make you aware of is obviously Ocean Ridge no longer provides service to Briny Breezes. And Ocean Ridge was going to put one of the cameras at the south end of Briny Breezes, which obviously would have been a great coverage for Gulfstream, and it probably mitigated the fact that Gulfstream didn't necessarily need to invest and do it on their own. I don't know if that's still an opportunity because Ocean Ridge no longer provides service, so that's another thing that you need to be aware of as a town. To have that tool for a police officer is fantastic. Coastal Star just did a wonderful front page article. If you haven't read it, please read it. I mean, I think it really speaks to how the tool can be used in a very effective manner, but it has to be a continuity with all the municipalities, not just one or two. So I bring that forth. And then the last thing is I feel that we need probably a Barrier Island traffic study that involves all municipalities. There's been talk in Ocean Ridge about making some streets one way and some streets maybe closing them down, making them pedestrian only. Briny has taken ownership of their section of Old Ocean Boulevard, their tiny section, and there's been discussions with them, well, maybe we'll just close it off and nobody else could go through it. So I think that there has to be a realization that each of these municipalities, whatever one does affects the other, obviously. And there should probably be some future-looking traffic plan study, and just kind of bring it all together. And the last thing is the coalition is going to try to sponsor lunches for both the mayors and the town managers of all these municipalities at least once a quarter, just to get everybody together outside of the League of Cities. I know that's kind of repetitive sometimes, but outside of the League of Cities, and just, just sit down and talk about obviously what is happening in their municipalities. Chances are it's happening in the one right next door. So that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Steve. Very exhaustive report of what's occurring there. Some good and some of concern. Thank you very much for your efforts, and Bob as well. All right, moving on to the town manager report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I did want to remind the commission and the public that we're now into that part of the year whereby our codes allow construction on Saturdays. Sometimes, we may forget about that, but that also includes our contractors working on the undergrounding. So I just wanted to mention that in case you got some calls about what are they doing here on Saturday. But it also applies to them, so they're allowed to do that. But I think they've actually figured that into their timing and their schedule for so I just wanted to remind everybody about that.
And that ties into the undergrounding report. Mr. Brandon's not here, but as Mr. Graziano explained, things are moving rapidly, not without incident. I think we've had 3 water line breaks in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But it is moving as rapidly as possible. And hopefully, as Mr. Ganger says, we'll look back on this a year from now and be glad it's done and forget all the bad stuff and only remember good.
And Para, if I could add, I mean, it's not unusual that, this part of the, of a construction project for you to, it's not unexpected to have these kind of calls every day. So the chief and I come to work every day expecting that we're gonna be going out somewhere. But related to the water issues, I mean, we have developed new hangers that we hope catch our residents' attention a little better as we put them on the door. And we also utilized on one of these, didn't need to for this last one, but the robocall process through the county emergency operations center. And I think it went off without a hitch. So I was happy to use that. And I don't know if it's the first time we've done that, but I think it was useful because it included a much larger area for us.
That's a county service that we subscribe to annually and allows us in times of emergency, like a water break, to access a telephone recording that notifies residents of a particular problem and what that problem is.
Is that the local lines? Or
Yes,
you know how that works?
yes, sir. I mean, so we identify an area and then we develop a statement, send it off to the county, and then they put it into motion.
Now, we talked about this briefly, not really digressing, but as Paul mentioned, those phone numbers typically are that which is listed in the
That's
phone
correct.
book. So if you have an unlisted number or people don't have a landline, is there a way of providing from our residents a cell phone instead? Is there a way of updating that as the county?
Right.
The answer to that was yes. I'm not positive they still can do it, but originally when the system was developed, they could do that. But each individual number would have to been, had forwarded to them for that purpose, whether it's a cell phone or
Can we find out what the procedure would be, and perhaps we
We will
take steps to notify the residents and collect
Right.
better numbers?
to update that. But as we speak, my understanding from Bill was that they're in the process of upgrading the system that we just used. And so I'd like for the chief and I to go over to the Emergency Operations Center to bring ourselves up to date on it, and we'll ask those questions
Great.
over there.
Good. Any other questions on that issue? Any other items, Mr. Dunn, on your report?
No, that's it.
Okay. ARPB meeting, next one is May 22nd at 8:30 for those who wish to attend. Back to Mr. Dunham on the finance report.
Yes, sir, unless you have any questions, with the report that's been included in your packet, I would, recommend that you, approve it.
Any questions? Accept that as submitted. Police chief.
I request the monthly report be accepted as submitted. I'd just like to mention that 5 of my officers have recently attended an 8-hour block on mental health awareness training. Offered by the city of Delray Beach. All their officers have gone through it, and we're fortunate to be invited in and sit in on theirs and go through the training as well. It's training that teaches the officers the awareness of people with mental disabilities and how to handle them, rather than just think of them as a drug addict or something to that effect. It's become a very, very big issue, actually. Fortunately not for us locally, we haven't, but you never know when it's gonna happen.
Does that also include dementia?
Yeah, that's actually,
Older residents perhaps?
yeah, it's, or it could be for younger or elderly people.
Good. Questions of the chief? If not, we'll accept his report as submitted. Move on to items for commission action. There's a resolution, number 017-04. Ms. Taylor?
This is a resolution of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, naming authorized signatories for the Town of Gulfstream bank accounts and providing for an effective date. Everyone on the commission is listed as a signer, as is the town manager and myself. And this was brought about by an election and the change of town managers.
Any questions? Comments? If not, is there a motion to approve resolution 017-04?
I'll move to approve, resolution number 17-04.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you very much. Remain to, after the meeting, to sign that resolution, please. Let's move on to the town hall addition. Mr. Marsh.
Good morning, Mark Marsh, Bruce Marsh. First of all, I'd just like to commend Christina for her study, because that, what's ahead is pretty scary. So anything we can do to keep our eyes and ears on that, I think it behooves us to do that. It's gonna happen, I think, quicker than she predicts. Anyway, let's see if I can work this. I was engaged recently by you as a commission to investigate the option to expand the current town hall facility, primarily because of the space that's here, as it's the staffing and the storage and the records really have outgrown the current footprint. So what we're proposing is to extend 24 by 24 addition to the west end, which is that open lawn area as it exists now. And I think the important thing, and I hope you can see it, the white is where we exist now, where obviously the commission chamber here. The proposed addition, as I said, is on the west side of the existing building. Fortunately, by reshuffling some of the activities that currently exist, and I'll just take you through let me go back and tell you what's proposed to be housed in the addition. First of all, there's a new manager's office with a storage area, their own air handling, and then the addition of an attorney's office with large storage. What the program that we were asked to obviously address those two areas, two primary, very important office spaces, as well as to try to increase storage. As we know, even though in this age of internet and email, it's a fallacy. There's more paperwork, more storage required. So I think you've suffered, and I think Rita can attest to that, that storage has been an issue because you have to store stuff off-site currently. And what we've done now is we're proposing, as it's set up here, which was our suggestion, to set up a reception area, which used to be the old reception sitting area here, so that we have a staff person that can actually control. You have a wonderful lobby and you don't need to duplicate another lounge or reception area. If you want to utilize the space here, I had them move that desk out of the way so that people didn't walk around this desk, and really it was a useless use of the space. It really was awkward. So I think to encourage residents, applicants to use this lobby as a lobby, and then as you have now, have some secure access to a reception area. What we're proposing to do, where Rita's office is currently, is to move her into what was Bill's office. And it involves very little remodeling. We're adding some storage area for her. The more important thing is that we're going to turn her office into part library, part conference room, because again, I being an applicant on a regular basis, and more importantly, contractors, subcontractors that want to review plans, they come into where Rebecca is now. It's a working office. It's not really geared for any review of documents or research. So by having a conference room of some kind, I think is going to be a huge asset, rather than having this piecemeal split all over. The good thing about it is it's controlled so that people are not going to be able to penetrate deeply into the administrative part of the facility. With that, obviously, where Rebecca is, Renee is going to be relocated to this area where the library is currently. Her role will be to, again, kind of monitor who comes into the more higher administrative end of the facility, or the town hall activity, so that there is a very simple pathway through here into this new addition, which you come into a hallway and then go into Trey's office or to Greg's office. Again, it sets up very well for function, as well as some internal security or access to those folks. Going back to Rebecca's area, this will become more of a workroom permitting area. Again, just for plan storage, permit storage, and again, having the direct access to the this new conference area will just make the whole system. And we've worked with staff, and I think they all feel that it's a good solution, just to get the efficiency. This is a very modest addition, but I think it's going to help the staff and the town operation tremendously. In terms of, this is the addition here. Obviously, everything will mimic what's existing. This is the west. I'll just show you, and I just kind of rendered it up a little bit. It's a little small, but it's going to be a very simple addition. It reflects the symmetry, the balance, the materials of the existing facility. And at the end of the day, I defy anybody to know that it really is a new addition. So that's all I have to say. I just wanted the courtesy to give you an opportunity to review and comment.
Questions?
I think it looks good. It'll be a nice addition.
Yeah, I think from a functional standpoint, it's going to help.
I think the conference room will be great. So Rita was,
She can hide now.
Well, actually, Rita's office right now is the workroom that we
Right.
yeah, I know, I know.
And
I mean, but
as you all know,
they're always trying to find someplace to work.
It's not only a good addition, but it's a better use of space. And I particularly like the way you blended the outside elevation with the existing building, so it really looks quite natural, as if it was an original part of the building.
Are you going to be able to blend the roof colors pretty much so you won't?
Yeah, I
really
think we
change?
can. I mean, there may be a slight difference, but it, you know, on our weather, it fades out in the first 6 months. You're
Not
not big
notice.
difference.
Okay.
Other comments or questions?
The only question, I have two questions. One, is that large enough? And my tenant, my question is, you look down the road 10 years, you don't wanna have to do it again and spend a lot of money, because once you break ground and make a mess, you might as well get it big enough for 10 years or 15 years. I'm not proposing it to be larger, but on the other hand, I wanna make certain that if we do it now, that we're not coming back in 15 years to do it again.
No, I think this, obviously, the addition of a on-site attorney's office is one of the things that has kind of, you know, gone over the threshold in terms of where you are now. But I think the fact that, again, in talking with staff and more importantly with Bill, who had been my kind of liaison, and Rita, we felt that this would satisfy the town's long-term. I think your staff, you know, I can't see how you're gonna really increase staff. I mean, I think.
Rita, you're good with it.
Can't wait.
And just, Paul, to that point, I mean, you do have the maintenance building on the other side of the parking lot from the north, you know, which some of these storage areas could be moved up. The problem they have right now, it's offsite, believe it, just across the parking lot is an encumbrance to get material and respond in a timely fashion to any requests. So I think this will create a lot more efficiency for staff and the public and residents. So
my other question is, these plans, are they in accordance with the code?
Yes, they are.
the only minor thing, I want to get rid of this blind.
Well, we'll work on that.
I will take it off personally.
A question, with the
Sorry.
waiting area, would that be set up as it was before with seating?
Yeah,
But you know, there used to be files in there that took up, it seems like a lot of space because you've made so much extra space in the lobby that,
Yeah, I think through furnishings, and that's a whole other aspect that we really haven't, we're just focusing on the physical building improvement. But I think this lobby outside here, if it's furnished correctly, and as I said, get that table out of the way, because it just killed the space. There's no way to utilize that space except for just hanging around. But, you know, applicants can come in and sit on a couple of chairs. I don't think you have the need for a large reception area.
do you think that the conference room would have any advantage to being made a little larger and taking out some of the waiting area?
Well, the waiting area is not, this is now a reception area, like it is now. That would be a permanent situation. So the waiting area actually goes into the lobby, the current lobby.
I mean to enlarge the conference room, the library conference room?
Yeah, I don't think we can encroach to the north side, and again, I think this is the area that gets the majority of the activity, the building and permitting area, so I would hate to see that. I think if we start off with this, we're not moving any walls, it's just a furnishing, and that's one of the things that we're trying to limit the expenditure. One of the things we have talked about is obviously replacing the carpet, because that carpet was never, which we have it here, was never really appropriate for heavy traffic when you have contractors come in with boots and mud and oil. So we're gonna talk to Greg about that. But that's a good point. If the demand needs it, then maybe we'll have to expand and incorporate part of this reception area. It's not a big thing. I think just getting the efficiency where people have more area to work, and this workroom could be a layout space as well. It's a kind of a flex space.
Yeah, Donna's point was the same one that frankly I saw, and that is, it almost looks like a little wasted space in that.
In here?
In that seating area. And why not, it's probably not a weight-bearing wall, why not just either expand the conference room or put closets next to it, above it, into that area, so that you have some hidden storage space. Just seemed like an awful lot of open area.
Well, we have a lot of storage. Well, is it Dina?
Yes.
Tina, she's a permanent member of staff now, or, you know, that's currently. And her role is to, as she does now, is to, you know, kind of direct people who are coming into the facility. It works well because she is actually working and comfortable where she is. If for some reason that staff member is not required and then it falls on this person here, then I think we could do it. But I'm just dealing with the head count we were given. But it's a good point. I mean, I think we have the ability to expand that area with very little cost if we need it.
In the future.
Yeah.
Good.
I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
So we're not, I guess the question about so we're not pulling the desk out of the waiting area? And that's my follow-up question. The reception and secretary are in and out of as many town halls as Mark is. Are we gonna take out, what's the waiting area and the reception area? So when you walk in, are we taking the wall out, which has got number 1 by it?
This wall here?
No, go left, right there.
No, we're keeping the glass, we're taking out the door, so that glass screen is gonna be preserved.
Because I'm used to, we've got to secure, it's kind of a battle, you know, while we're doing it and spending the money, because we've got we have issues of secure areas, which you're very cognizant of, Mark, which is good. And then the second thing is everything else in the planet is open.
Well, it's controlled here, you'll still have controlled
No,
access.
but I mean, the office design, everywhere else on the planet is open.
Well,
Except for, we just have a limitation with, you don't want to be able to, you know, just walk into the clerk's office whenever you want. And you don't want to be able to walk in either the town attorney's or the staff's office. It has to be a holding point. Usually the reception area with at least 1 or 2 people, which would be the new areas you walk in, usually that's open with like an elevated desk or bar. You can see the people.
Right.
And then you would eliminate any person, we can have a desk out there for filler space, but you eliminate the desk to the left. So you walk in, I know we've got the
Oh, this area here?
Yeah, I know we've got the 2 lobby issue, and I agree about using the big lobby more, but obviously we can't redesign the building, we're just kind of working with what we have. So typically the desk would eventually go out of that area because it's sitting there, and then you're opening up the reception area, so when you walk in, you see bodies, employees, for.
Well, you see this body for sure, and that's
Right.
another.
That wall would need to be replaced and be lowered and or made to a half work desk. I mean, you've seen this, you probably have that Ocean Ridge, I've been in there a long time, but.
I think, yeah, Tom, I agree with, the point is, our charge was to look at the current space and reorganize it. This has gotta be that area with the controlled access here. Whether this becomes as you said, it could become a half wall, like a Dutch door scenario. But I think you have this, and then
Really just moving everybody out to the lobby to the extent possible,
Absolutely.
making this more comfortable.
and then you have this. If you have an overflow, or, you know, my experience is there have been never more than 2 or 3 people at a time. I think that we're just trying to kind of keep it in that scale and not grow into something that, even Ocean Ridge, and we did that, and, you know, that's somewhat underutilized. You know, it's perfect for its operation of this. I think we have an existing carcass here, and I think it's just how we orient. But I take your points. I think this is the key here, because we have this controlled access here, which is a security point. One thing could be done, you could add a door here or leave the door here that could be lockable. At least this group of people would be somewhat in a secure. I think Rita can she can handle her own. But I think, you know, you're serving the public. I think you want to be, you know, somewhat friendly. I mean, I know some of these larger towns and cities, you have a lot more activity, and you can't control who you're going to deal with. But I think the nice thing about Gulfstream is a parochial approach to everything.
I just might add that where Dina sits, the way that desk is in there now, it's necessary to be that way because the files that we've got in there now, but she actually needs more room. She needs a bigger desk for even the work she's doing now. So with this plan, that will allow us to put a bigger desk in there, which will take up more of that room. You won't see all of that space.
Because those file cabinets are coming out.
Some of them will, there probably will be something there because I hope that she's gonna be utilized a little more. So she'll need something.
I think the point is, to answer Paul's question, I think this is as large an addition as you should do. I think we're open to any suggestions on internal, arrangements or modifications. We just wanted to present something that we felt was functional, and has some long-term projection in terms of use. But Tom, I don't want to give up on that, your concern. I mean, it drives me a little bit crazy to have this lobby here that's, just sitting vacant and giving up primary functional office space.
And I think the lobby actually has a lot of light,
Yeah, it's a very-
welcoming, it's appealing, it works well as a lobby.
And I say you have this chamber which sits vacant 98% of the time.
Well, and any of the changes we're talking about seem to be modest ones that could be done in the future that.
Yeah, I think the answer is, I think the program space and the addition is sufficient for the projection of the town.
Any other questions, Mr. Marr?
We could go 150 feet if you want.
Ms. Christine?
I remember when these conversations started a couple of years ago, there was discussion at the time to maybe build somewhat of probably the wording's not right, but a bunker that would house the archives and a lot of the older records. Is that built into this, or is that gonna be separate?
No, that was an annex again in the maintenance, which was, actually there was a fire, there was a lot of dreaming going on, but there was a fire department.
That's the next problem.
A lot of things, but you have the space, that's the advantage you have over a lot of the other towns and municipalities, especially on the Barrier Island. You have physically area to work with. I think just getting this to respond to the daily uses and demands of it is the key thing here.
Well, looks good. Well, as you know, this is actually a level 2 application, so it normally would not have come to us, but because it is so important, it's the essence of our town hall, we wanted this to be brought and have Mark explain what he's doing. But what we are going to do as the commission is to send this back down to, not back, but to the ARPB for their review and approval. They are the ones who make the final judgment. But via the minutes, they'll have some of our comments and suggestions. But that's what we're looking to do, is to have approval from the commission to send this applications plan down to the ARPB for review. And I believe we need a motion to do that.
I'll make a motion to send this plan to the ARPB for their approval with our comments.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner Stanley?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Orthwine?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any items by commissioners?
I would like to take this opportunity to express my thanks and the thanks of Plaza Soleil to the staff there. They're doing a wonderful job, and I know it's very time consuming, and also to the staff, Greg, Bill, who's not here, and of course Rita for all their work. To the coalition, to the Civic Association, I think it's everybody getting together and the support of the commission also, all the commissioners, that made it so successful. It's really a good thing for our community.
Well, thank you. In that regard, I will be sending out a letter today summarizing the points of agreement that we reached with Gunther Volvo. The main issue, of course, being that large parking garage and the light and noise Donna mentioned, a lot of people were involved in addressing this issue. And although we reached somewhat of an impasse, I want to compliment Mr. Gunther, Jay Gunther, who we reached out to. And once he got involved, that impasse was breached, and their attorneys and architects worked directly and well with us to reach the agreement that we did. And it occurred about 2 hours before the SPRAB meeting on Wednesday. So my letter will spell out what those items are, but I want to thank everyone who is involved, including the Civic Association and the Florida Coalition, of course the Gunther Volvo people, and over at Plaza Soleil, Quinn Miklos spent a lot of time working on this, providing us with reasoned arguments and options. So I want to thank him, and Chet Snavely in particular, who really spent hours and hours on this project. He and I probably attended, between individually or jointly, 10 to 12 separate meetings, conference calls to try to reach the agreement that we did. I'm very pleased with it, and I'll be updating you with my letter today. Any other comments? If not, this meeting's adjourned. Let's sign the resolution.